Everybody, welcome back to Keeping Up with the Seattle Kraken. I'm gonna not tempt the fates with jokes about suing so that it doesn't actually happen. Your weekly Seattle Kraken show on Circling Seattle Sports with Silvia, Jade, and myself. If you don't know me, I am Charles. You either tend to love me or hate me. That is kind of where Twitter is at with me. So, we only had one game from last Monday to this Monday. This is being recorded on the 29th, but the show goes out on Mondays. It was the holiday break, and the show would be a very different tone if the Kraken had lost 4-1 as the score had gone in the game against the Vancouver Canucks. Um, uh, I know that there are two things I want to point out before I get fully like into kind of recounting the acid trip that was that game. I want to say that Jade did say last show that the weird 1 o'clock start time, because that game started at 1 o'clock. It was in Vancouver, obviously. If you don't know time zones, we're in the same one as Vancouver. Um, and the Kraken just historically don't really play well in those odd start times. They just don't. Even at home or away against good teams, against bad teams, it doesn't tend to matter. Seattle just, oh, it's not at 7. Ouchie, I can't play hockey. And I'm like, oh. Um, they played like not great. How they had for matinee games normally for like all but I would think 55 minutes of the hockey game before overtime, right? And then they figured it out. And I will also point out that Silvia did say that she has kept general hope and optimism alive that I have not. So credit to both of you for those 2 points. But yeah, I mean Seattle went into this game the day before they had a practice. Joey Daccord um was not able to play in this game. He's dealing with a upper body injury, which we'll talk about after the Vancouver game. Andre Burakovsky was out with an illness, so you were without those two guys, which without Berkey doesn't seem to matter that much. Philip Grubauer had a good game. He was, I mean, at least largely the reason that this wasn't a larger score, and the reason that this comeback was even really possible for Seattle. Um, there was a time in the game where Vancouver did have a fifth goal, but it was taken away because Dakota Joshua pawed at the puck. I say paw. I don't know if he's a furry. He gloved at the puck and pushed it in. So that was taken off the board. And the final 5 minutes, I don't know what happened, but the Kraken decided they wanted to play hockey. They scored 3 goals in 5 minutes. Jaden Schwartz um, had two of them. The first one to bring it within two, just nice one right off of Demko from an odd angle. The second one, Vince Dunn was able to take the Kraken were able to take advantage of a turnover in the Vancouver zone, which normally that happens to them. They have goals scored against them because of turnovers in their own zone. Um, and then Jaden Schwartz, I think it was with a minute and 12 left after they scored that third goal. It was really weird. I was watching this game on my phone and I just kind of accepted that they had lost, and I was already doing something around 4:30 anyway. Jaden Schwartz kind of made a mad dash himself to the crease, and even though there were about four Canucks around him, in addition to Thatcher Demko, was able to put home his own rebound. And Seattle goes into the overtime period. Vince Dunn scores all alone. He was talking about it post game. He was hoping that Chandler Stevenson would follow the play so he could drop it off to him, but Stevenson told him that you've got this. So Vince had to deal with it on his own. He did. He won it. But yeah, that was an absolutely I guess we'll start it off this way. That shit crazy game for Seattle to win. I had really just marked it as a sixth straight loss. Even with um Vancouver not having Quinn Hughes or Elias Pettersson, they just got outmuscled. Sylvia had some thoughts on it during the game about how, there was discourse about Philip Grubauer, which there always will be, no matter what. He could, save a burning baby from a burning hospital, and he would still, someone would bring up his save percentage. I don't know, Yeah, this was just crazy. It's still hard to fathom. Uh, Sylvia, I know you were looking at it. We'll start the rotation with you. What are your thoughts on this game? Whatever it may be, vibes wise, stats wise, any of that. We'll go to Jade, and then we'll come back to me to move on to the next topic. But yeah, this game was just. I don't know how many games I've ever seen like this. This was a historic game because of the comeback that Seattle made. Yeah, I don't know. What can you put into words about this win over Vancouver to snap the losing streak?
I think my big takeaway is that people need to have whimsy. This is a mini rant that I've been preparing all day. Okay. I there's that one tweet that goes around a lot that's like, sports are meant to suffer with a group of people, which truly, yeah. But I do think that, people are such Debbie Downers these days about their sports team. And like the moment their team, we're like top of the second period, your team is down, you still have like 30 minutes of this game to go. These people know how to play the game, usually. Not all the time, but usually they do. So I think it's like for me, it's often frustrating to see people like, oh, like sell the team. We have like a whole two and a half, like a half a period to go. Let's relax. Which we saw with the Kraken, fully recovered. I do blame this fully on sports betting, which is my rant. I think people are such like Debbie Downers and just get so frustrated and they get so angry the moment that their team, you know, isn't up by like first 2 minutes of the game because of sports betting. And I think that's just the sports betting culture that has been cultivated around sports in general. That's my big thought. My my smaller thought around that. I think we have underestimated. No, that's not true. I think we have estimated the Kraken to their potential very, very well. I don't think you can underestimate or overestimate the Kraken as they are now. But one thing, I didn't tweet this on my personal, but I did tweet this in Spanish. The Canucks without Quinn Hughes, without their top goal scorers, they are basically the Kraken of the North. So the game throughout before the Kraken really showed up, it was pretty much like par for par. The shots were par for par. The time in each other's offensive zone was par for par. It was all very balanced, I would say. Obviously, the goals weren't, and that's what most people will look at is the goals because that's how you win. But I think in terms of, you know, where the skill set of each team was pretty balanced. I do think at that point before the Kraken exploded, the Canucks wanted it more. And I'm sure a big part was that, Quinn Hughes wasn't there. You got to kind of show up for your captain. If your captain isn't on the team, you're going to want to play a little bit better. That's a big part of missing your captain. Don't know why the Kraken don't do it. Their captain's been gone for however long. I feel like that should, bolster them. But I do think throughout just the response of the fans, super Debbie Downer. I think the Kraken do this thing, and I see it. I think we see it pretty much every game where they will be down, and then the last 20 seconds of every period, they wake up and they start shooting and they start shooting. And then, the last 5 games they lost, but they were still doing that. If the Kraken could just hold that consistently a full, 60 minutes, we would be in such a better position. Probably not in the playoff position. Our players aren't that good, but we would be in just a better happiness, optimism for the players, for the team, for everyone. I did want to point out Vince Dunn, kind of my favorite person during that entire game, other than Grubauer. I got to give my flowers because I did say that. I think he did, he was our most consistent, our strongest player all 60 minutes. But I think Vince Dunn, the Kraken always play better when Vince Dunn is playing well, when Vince Dunn is on the ice. If I remember correctly, and Mr. Statsman, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think he is on pace to improve or hit his career high of 2022-23, which I think is 14 goals. So if he keeps playing the same way he has in the last 6 games, he'll hit that super quick. which is exciting because even if your team isn't playing well, at least we're hitting these milestones for these players and we're able to celebrate that along with them. Jade, I'll pass it on to you. Pass it.
Um, I am gonna be honest, I napped through the game on accident. Um, and so when I fell asleep, I don't know, it was maybe halfway through the first period. And then I woke up to the game going into overtime. So I went back and turned on the last 6 minutes and then got super distracted and didn't end up actually watching the last 6 minutes. But from the clips that I've seen, the game looked great. I saw a lot of praise for Dunn and Grubauer, and um, I had also just kind of written it off as, like Charles said, like, okay, cool, this is going to be the sixth loss in a row. Um, and that just kind of, I don't know, is what it is. So I was happy to see that they had won when I woke up. So I have nothing really, unfortunately, for the game yesterday. I didn't mean to take a nap, but I was hungover, so
I'm assuming the Kraken
Um,
too with the way they played.
yeah.
maybe. I mean, I don't. No, I went to go and look for Vince Dunn's. The what I was. I don't know if that was meant to me or if we have another man in the room. Um, but I mean, he's. You could argue that he's probably going to surpass that. I mean, he's only played 17 games this year. He's got 7 goals. Um, and his career high in goals, the 22-23 season was 14. He got that in 81 games. I mean, if you take it on that pace, which obviously pace doesn't always, play out all the time, he'd probably score at least like 20, which I don't expect from Vince Dunn. It would be great, be wonderful. But yeah, I mean, when he's been on the ice for Seattle, he's been pretty invaluable. I mean, it's funny. You don't want to justify stupid people, right? But uh, even by like looking at them or acknowledging them, there's an account on Twitter that is at Trade Vince Dunn, and I'm like, wow, we're stupid, aren't we? Like, we don't really understand the whole hockey thing, right? Like, I just was fascinated by it because and I think I might have talked about this in one of the earlier episodes. Um, and obviously, no one person's word is like gold. But I was talking to Everett Fitzhugh, and we were talking about it earlier in the season. And I said, which players on this roster can do no wrong? Like they mess up, they have one mess up, and like, oh, it's fine. Like I understand it. Your value is far too great for me to like hold this too much against you. The list was something like Joey Daccord, Jared McCann, but he said Vince Dunn when he's not doing stupid shit. And Vince can do, there are times where he gets riled up. I think that's a fair thing to say, right? Um, including pointing at his face after it might have been whacked at a little bit or bloody. Um, yeah, no, it's just really remarkable too that the two guys who had the multi-point games in Jaden Schwartz and Vince Dunn are guys who have obviously been around each other for a while, in St. Louis and now here. Um, and that was something that Vince talked about. And it was funny too. If you look at the video of Vince celebrating, he goes right into Jaden Schwartz's arms. Um, I'm sure hockey Twitter will have fun with that, or already had fun with that. Um, yeah, no, I would agree with what Sylvia says on that. It's like you need to the both things. The sports betting is a terrible cancerous thing because if you look at the Kraken social like the Kraken accounts tweets during the bad part of the game, it's just people saying unhinged, like totally inappropriate things. And it's usually because their parlay bet was like dependent on the Kraken. First of all, you need help. Second of all, if you are betting on the Seattle Kraken in a positive way, you need extra help. I what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, third of all, delete your account. Touch grass, touch mud at that point. I don't know. Um, yeah,
Really
I don't know.
reconnect with the earth in ways no one's ever
Yes,
connected
connect with
before.
the earth. Get
Oh,
6 feet below. I'm okay. We're gonna continue. Uh, um, yeah, I don't know. It was just really fascinating. to see this game, and I really do hope, that this is the spark of something. There were several points in the season where I had hoped, a win or a few wins could turn things around. I'd hoped maybe that stretch of early December when we started this show, when they had points in like 5 of 6, and that wasn't true, was it? At the last few weeks before the holiday break, that didn't end up being it. And if you want to even kind of bring it into more reality, yeah, you beat a team without Quinn Hughes, without EP. So, um, yeah, that kind of brings us into something that was related, but not necessarily too related because he didn't play in it. But the reason he didn't play was the injury. Joey Daccord missed this game with an upper body injury. I know that there are some folks online who have speculated it's a groin. Last I checked, the groin is lower. It's not upper. So, I mean, maybe check that part out. Or they could be lying, which I imagine that's a fine of some sorts if you like incorrectly label an injury, right? Like I have to feel like that's not legally. Like you can't do that, right? I don't think you can. Anyway, um, when Biosma was they recalled the goaltender Alisteska from Coachella Valley on the emergency basis. He backed up Grubauer in this one. Stupid people on Twitter said to put Steska in during that game, which go back to the gambling thing I talked about. You need help. Um, Bilesma, I believe, after the practice or no, the morning of the Vancouver game, said that he was um, hopeful that Joey would be able to play Monday against Utah. They practiced today. Joey skated on his own before the main group, which usually happens for an injured player if you're not aware. And Bilesma said that he doesn't think it's likely, I can find the exact terminology, that he'll play tomorrow, which uh, isn't great. And I'm not trying to compare it one for one, but the last time I feel like I got like I had this truth spun on me or flipped on me was when Jordan Eberle got hurt. The Kraken were playing a back to back that homestand against the Islanders and the Rangers. I saw Jordan Eberle on crutches, and I remember Dan Bilesma had told us that either Friday or during that weekend that they were hopeful that Jordan Eberle would be able to play the upcoming week. And then we found out his pelvis needed surgery. And now he's out till essentially when the season's over. So I'm not trying to put you into a doom spiral. Milo, if you're hearing this, I'm not trying to put you into a doom spiral. Um, but it's concerning, right? I mean, to hear like optimism that we'd see the guy on Monday, or even that he'd be, even if he was fully available in practice today, that would be a good sign as well. Um, I don't know what does a Joey Daccord injury do to Seattle? Because at least us, if you were asking random men on Twitter, they'd say that Grubauer is going to lose every game and he's going to be Swiss cheese. But thankfully we're not random men on Twitter. Um, I don't know. What does a Joey Daccord injury look like? Are we concerned? What do we think about this situation, Jade? And we'll throw it over to Silvia to talk about
Um,
our beloved Joel.
I think this is no reason to start panicking too much. Um, I do have my hesitations, because like you said, the Eberle injury, it does make me a little bit nervous, but I'm trying to stay positive because so many people are already panicking. There's no reason for every single person that has ever followed the Kraken ever to panic that Joey is missing 2 games. Um, if he is injured long term, that does make me a little bit nervous for the rest of the season. Not that I don't think Grubauer can do it because I am sure he would be just fine. Um, but it does make me nervous for what that means for the rest of the season and uh the sanity of the people that exist in the realm of Kraken Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I will never be one to panic about anything ever. I'm too cool and collected for that. Um, I think this is going to be like this is like one of the seven of hell Kraken a little bit. This is a test, right? Of one, do your players trust each other enough to kind of back each other up when your biggest asset isn't on the ice? And in this sense, like your biggest asset isn't a scorer. Obviously, we do not have the greatest scorers on in the NHL, but we do have Joey Daccord, who's like kind of saving everybody's asses out there anytime he's out there. Um, so I think it's part that, right? It's is this a team? Is this team a team enough to like be able to stand up for each other, and pick, the good fight and kind of play better offensively and defensively because our defense wasn't there for Vancouver at all. So are we able to back each other up? I also think if it comes to Utah, Joey's not back yet. Um, and it turns out that we're not, this team isn't willing to do that, then what does that look like when it comes to the trade deadline and to what players get pulled up and who gets scratched? I think this is a really good time to kind of just, for the front office to take a step back and really analyze what do we want for this Kraken team, especially this Kraken team where they were looking to build something in the first 5 years before they won anything. So it's I think it's just a good test, for them. I'm really hoping one of my things is I'm slowly starting to like, you know, become the Philip Grubauer protector on Twitter for some reason. I think I'm really hoping that if Joey is long term, and I hope that he's not, this kind of goes to show a lot of the fans and the players and whoever else, that you have to be able to trust your goalie. Again, we've talked about this before. He is paid the way he's paid for a reason. The front office trusts him. The front office also trusts the players that they're pulling up. If they weren't, then they wouldn't be there at all. So I think that we also have to, remember and just trust in the fact that these are professional players. I think Grubauer is going to kind of show up the way he has, or the way he did in Vancouver. He had like 4 awesome stops. Um, Again, as long as our defense is back, as long as our offense can really just generate literally anything, please, I swear to God, I'm begging for them to shoot at this point. I think we will be fine. Again, it's not like we're making the playoffs. What? Why are we? Why are we crying? We're
Yeah,
nowhere near the Cup.
I think you need to, yeah, I think expectations need to be set. Like if this was a team that, was in one of the playoff spots in the Pacific or even in like solidly in a wild card, then you could, manage expectations. But unless this team goes on a heater of sorts and you get some help in the West and some other teams decide they just want to croak, um, it just looks unlikely. We've talked about that already. But yeah, no, I mean, I had this again. Some random white man on Twitter did not like that I said that over the last few weeks, Grubauer has played well in the games he's got. You look back to it, December 8th against New York. I mean, it wasn't his best game, right? Um, but I mean, he made stops to help them. That also that comeback doesn't happen if he doesn't make stops in the right moments, right? He did not play against Florida in Boston. I mean, that was a really solid game for him. You get a bunch of and the only goal he allowed was the penalty shot, and Brad Marchand tends to be a penalty shot merchant, I guess, considering he's got what tied for the most in NHL history. Um, the Tampa Bay game, as Jade saw, I mean, that was another solid game. I'm not blaming the 5 goals on him. You know, uh, did he play in Ottawa? I don't think so. I don't know. My point stands. He's played well in the last few weeks. Seattle hasn't played well as a team in front of him, like Silvia has talked about. And that's evidenced by, I mean, I'm looking at the 1 goal, 0 goals, 1 goal, 2 goals, two. Come on, gotta be able to score.
There's a whole
Um,
thing that somebody did last year about how the team just essentially breaks down in front of Grubauer too. And that's something that I try to keep in mind. Because like any sports fan ever, I love Grubauer. I am also a Grubauer defender. I still have my moments where I'm like, what are you doing? Please just stop the puck. Like,
Sure.
and that's standard for any fan. But I feel like, but I do like take that into consideration a lot when I'm like, okay, he's having a couple really bad games in a row. Like, what's going on, and then I'm like, okay, probably not him. Let's take a look at what the team is doing. How are they playing in front of him? And so that's something that I think about often. So,
And my other thing with the Joey injury is, if say he's out for an extended period, say he misses a few weeks, God forbid, even that, like, you then have to trust Philip Grubauer to you're gonna have to ride him because the last
mhm.
thing you want is a guy who's essentially been an AHL goalie. It's not like what was it last year where you had Chris Drieger who you knew could play at the NHL level. It's not; those are not the same scenario. Kraken Canada on fucking Twitter is like, put Stezka in. You are a moron. A Come on. An AHL goaltender going against the Vancouver Canucks, even without Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson. Like, Jake DeBrusk is cooking that man and his stalker, maybe. I learned about that over the weekend. I was fascinated by that. I don't know. I
It's
just
incredible.
Oh, yeah, we don't have time for that. That is,
No.
we will start our own NHL show and we will do that there. We'll talk about Gino all you want.
Yes.
Um, but so, come to grips, Kraken Canada and other Philip Grubauer haters. If this is the scenario, they are going to have to ride Philip Grubauer. And the month of January is a busy month. They play about 16, 17 games in a span of 32 days. I mean, so we'll go from when January begins on January 1st. Who knows who will be hungover that day. No game, game, no game, game. You know, they have game every other day, except there's a 2-day break. There's 2 days of no games between the 7th and the 8th. They travel to Columbus to start a road trip. Same thing. They have games every other day until the 21st and 22nd, which is 2 days off during a homestand. It is a busy month. So this is obviously a really bad. You can't ask Joey, hey, don't get injured. Just heal up.
Hmm.
Just be better. Like Silvia was saying, like, I simply wouldn't let that happen to us, right? Sylvia wouldn't let that happen to us. I know she's got us, right? There you go. So you'll have to sack up, deal with it. You cannot. You can maybe afford to start him here or there. I mean, if he's hurt long, if we're doing the multiple weeks thing, I mean, there's a back to back at the end of the month between Edmonton and then you come back home and play Anaheim. Then you'd have to play him, but I'm not trusting an AHL goalie because again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Stezka has any extended stints in the AHL. I mean NHL. Sorry. I'll look it up again just to be sure. But you get what I'm saying here? Like, if this is the reality, hopefully, Joey is just going to eat a lollipop and he'll be fine and he'll be back, when they play Vancouver on Thursday. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, no, he has not played an NHL game.
No,
Oh,
I think he's
Christ
like
in heaven.
6, 9, and 6 in his 18 games that he's played with the Firebirds so far. So like even if Grubauer was fully falling apart, that is
Mhm.
Stetsko's just not the guy you want in net at all.
No,
Especially it,
oh,
yeah,
he's your
especially
depth.
if your Kraken are not showing up for your main goal,
Uh-oh.
and he's a great for this other kid.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, it's just I had this moment. We were recording our Mariner show earlier where I realized just how bad their offseason is. This is me realizing just how bad it would be because, I mean, we go here and we look at this. He's got career, Czechia, yes, Czechia, Czechia, Czechia. He played in the World Juniors, USHL. Wow, magical. USHL goes back to Czechia. Then he signed with Coachella Valley last year. He went 18-6 there, 18-6-2. Yeah, two overtime losses. This year he's 6-9-6. So not so bueno. And then yeah, like you said, you put him in front of the way this defense has been playing. Sorry, he's exploding.
The
He
Kraken may
will.
never win again if that happens.
I just it is
Knock on wood
amazing to
right
me.
now, Jade.
Huh?
Knock on wood right now.
Oh God. Okay.
It is just amazing to me. People think so low of the guy, and I get it. The contract's big. They should. As a guy who likes the person, like I think they should buy him out this offseason anyway. But like, he's played good games this year. You have to be a total moron to not say that, and to say that I'd rather have an AHL goaltender in there. You just have lost the plot. If you are rage baiting for engagement, like I assume a lot of these people are, like, sure, that gets you your engagement quota and you'll get the whatever Elon bucks you that you want, but you just don't know what you're fucking. This is we have lost the plot. If we want to put an AHL career AHL goaltender, he should be the third goalie in your system at most. I just sorry, I had to get that out there. Anyway, it's been a kind of quiet week, so we don't have too many super hard hitting topics for you. Obviously, with the team, being off for the holiday, they only had the one practice and then they had the game. With that, I guess I can touch on the injuries just from what happened today. I wasn't there because we cover like 30 teams here, so you'll have to bear with me. They did practice. I talked about Joey Daccord. Chandler Stevenson had a maintenance day. Um, and the tweets from our friends who were there said that Bilesma did not specify whether or not he would play tomorrow. I went and watched the recording of him talking. He said he joked. He said, "Don't tell anyone from Utah, but expect to see him tomorrow." I don't know why that was like. I very clearly heard him. I'll probably just put the clip in here so you can watch it yourself. Oh wait, so I don't get that. I don't get why that was. So I imagine Stevie's fine. I mean, he was on the ice for Vince Dunn's overtime winning goal. I didn't see anything, you know. I imagine it was just a maintenance day. They give the veterans that. Jaden Schwartz will have a maintenance day and then he'll be fine. So I don't. And then Andre Burakovsky, yeah, Andre Burakovsky was a full participant after his illness. I am intrigued to. Oh, I can look up actually what the lines were today. I don't know. Biasma, after the team has won games, they typically leave things alone and they roll with what worked. I don't imagine they'll do that just because they were getting their stuff pushed in really bad. And you'll get Burakovsky. Yeah, Schwartz, Beniers, Kako, Sprong, oh God, Sprong, McCann, Burakovsky, Colvin Wright, Bjorkstrand, Cartier, Gord, Tanev. Fascinating. Oh yeah, and Gustav Olofsson is up here. Um, as a seventh defenseman for the time being. Um, okay. I mean, I'm not going to talk about Lions, but looking, yeah, at the homestand ahead, we've got Utah tomorrow. A Monday. Well, by the time you're seeing this, it's today. Monday, the 30th. They'll have 2 days off between games. They'll get 2 days of practice, which is nice for them to actually get some practice. Capo Caco had his first day of practice on Sunday the 29th, the time that we are recording this, and they had him do an autograph signing afterwards. So they put that boy to work. They said, "Here's your first practice. Go sign autographs for 30 minutes afterwards." God, oh God. You play Vancouver again on Thursday, and they are not expected to have Elias Pettersson or Quinn Hughes. Rick Tocchet, another bald man, said that they'll both be out week to week, which sucks for Vancouver fans. I'm sorry if you are a dual Kraken Vancouver fan, but I mean, and I would say it's maybe beneficial for the Kraken, but they were getting stomped without them anyway in that game on Saturday. Then you play Edmonton, and that's just historically always been a mad matchup for the Kraken. You get Connor McJesus and Leon Draisaitl, and then you play the Devils on Monday to close out that 4 game homestand. And you played the Devils well, but that was during a stretch where they were actually playing well. So, Silvia, we'll start with you. We'll go to Jade, and then we'll wrap up with me. What does a successful homestand for you look like with those 4 games? I mean, it's not going to be an easy one. I haven't watched Utah too much, but they look like they've been fun. They've got some wins against good teams. Vancouver, we've talked about Vancouver, and you can more. Obviously, they've struggled against Edmonton, and New Jersey is one of the better teams. Unfortunate for some. Yes, I'm looking at Jade. Um,
Thanks.
I know you don't like New Jersey.
Yep. Not anymore.
Yeah. Well, Sylvia, what does a successful homestand for you over these 4 games look like? Is it, are you looking to take 6 of the 8 points? Are you just trying to show better play after how poorly they've looked defensively? What does it look like successfully for you this upcoming homestand?
I would like to see a more consistent Kraken, even if it's not like, I honestly at this point I don't care if we're winning. I don't. I don't care. But I would like to see them generate plays that work, generate plays that are intelligent. And honestly, I'm looking at Matty Beniers here because I did call that he was going to score because the holiday cheer really got to him. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for the Kraken, new year, new me. And I hope that new year, new them is them really remembering this whole they have sorry, text messages. The Kraken have this whole thing where during intermission they will go to Piper Shaw and they'll be like, yeah, we just gotta like crash the net a little bit more. We just gotta get in front of the net and cause chaos and shoot. And then they don't do that during the actual games. But they were doing that when, we were at the beginning of December when we were playing well. It was creating those plays in front of the net and creating that chaos in front of the net in front of these really, really good goalies. And if we can get back to that, maybe we can see some goals. We can see some, structured plays. We can see like a team that is actually playing offensively, even if, Brandon Montour decides to take a nap middle of the blue line. Like as long as we are they're putting their money where their mouth is, then yeah, exactly like that. Thank you so much for the demonstration. That's actually really good, Brandon Montour impersonation. Um, I think that if they're doing what they're saying they're going to do, that's really all I want to see from this team is them, going to Piper Shaw, going to whatever other beat reporter and actually doing that on the ice. And I think again, I generally do not care if we win if they go on a full, they win all the home stands and then they go and they keep winning. Awesome, fantastic. If they lose against Utah, which, like we know, they're Utah's doing really well. I just want to take a moment and point out that they are still the Coyotes, same team. This is not a whole new team, so it's not surprising that they're doing well. But like if they go out and they lose these, what is it, like 4 games, kind of deserved, but at least take these next 4 games where you get to go home, you are on familiar ice to kind of like, get back together and start playing like a team again.
I agree with a lot of that. I am also not expecting too much from this homestand. I am kind of expecting a win against the Canucks with EP and Hughes both still out. That's also kind of wishful thinking given how the game went yesterday. So I'm not going to be surprised if they walk away with not a single win. The game against the Devils is one that makes me a little bit nervous just because they are doing so well this year, unfortunately. Um, Very happy for all my friends that are Devils fans, but I hate it. So I'm a little bit nervous about that game. Their goaltending is really good this year. The whole team just seems to be meshing really well. Utah has also been doing good, so same thing. I'm not expecting a whole lot. And I agree with what you said about just taking the time to play on home ice and I don't know, go on a bonding trip, go have a bonding night or something and get it back together. So
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think at this point, like you said earlier in the show, it's pretty apparent who this team is. I don't think that they can, sprinkle anything on them and turn them into a better shooting team, a better uh just a better offensively talented team. Um, I do think consistency is the right step because they just haven't been that.
mhm.
They will go and take an absolute turn on the Montreal Canadiens and score 8 goals, and then they will take a nap against the Chicago Blackhawks in Chicago. It just though, obviously Montreal is not the benchmark of the NHL, despite what Montreal fans will think. Um, but yeah, I mean, they pushed the Florida Panthers to a shootout. The team, and they've done this every year too. If you exclude the second year when they actually won games, like sure, but even in the first year and then last year, they beat good teams, which is wild to think about. So they can do that, but they're not consistent. Consistent is not the thing they've been in year one, year three, or year four, and even showcasing year two. It shows they're not consistent because they had the one good year, but they've all otherwise been bad. So yeah, I think that would be progress. I mean, it would be nice to say you split the homestand, but I don't feel super confident in that. I mean, maybe if you do, find a way to beat Utah, and you take advantage of a Vancouver team that's without um, Quinn Hughes and his sunken eyes, and Elias Pettersson, and maybe they are just so shell shocked by the fact that they had that comeback happen against them that they're still in a funk when you see them on Thursday. But Edmonton, I have to look up probably the last time. I don't know if they've beat. I'll look at them. Um, versus Oilers in Seattle. And then the Devils, yeah. I mean, they played them close in New Jersey, the
Hmm.
Prudential Center, but um just with it, if we're looking at it this way, right? Just they are currently, it doesn't seem really good. Oh, excuse me. They just have too many talented players that, if Seattle breaks down like a bunch of Legos that, whoever is in goal, whoever the fan base might want in goal will get torched. It's just how that's going to be. Um, oh no, they have a win at against Edmonton at home. Okay. So they do have one win at home against Edmonton. They've got two wins against them all time. So yeah, not looking fantastic. So yeah, I'd say consistency. I mean, at least like and even to Sylvia's point about God bless Piper Shaw, by the way. The intermission interviews they do with Piper, you know, if they do those things and actually got to the net on a consistent basis, they would not be scoring 1 to 2 goals per game, like a hungry, starving team. But, that just wouldn't be how that would be. So yeah. And then this next topic, as we get done talking about that and how I'm stumbling over words, the New Year's is coming up. Uh, by the time the next episode airs, we will be in the month of January in the year 2025. The new year will have passed. Please be careful. Don't blow your hand off with a firework. Um, I wanted to see what Kraken we could give New Year's resolutions. Everyone has resolutions. I don't really do them because I don't want to lie to myself. I do that already. Um, why would I keep doing that? Um, I was like, pick some players or, whoever to give a New Year's resolution. Um, whether it's Andre Burakovsky remembering how to use his shot and remembering how to play hockey well, or Matty Beniers going to the net consistently, even when he struggles. And even though he did snap his 19 game goal drought against Vancouver, making actual efforts to find those dirty goals when your shot that is the same shot, isn't working for you. So, Jade, we'll start with you. We'll go to Silvia, and then I will, I guess, be a little too honest with mine.
I have two. I couldn't come up with a third, and you said one of them and implied the second already. So one of them is Burkowski, and just I'm gonna leave it there with what you said, because I don't want to rant for too long. Anyways, and then the second is Matty Beniers and his, speaking of inconsistency, him and his inconsistency so far this year. Um, he there's something about the way that he's playing that doesn't look like Matty to me this year, and I can't quite pinpoint what it is. So perhaps in the new year, uh, that will change, hopefully. Um, and yeah, I wish that I could even begin to explain like what exactly I think it is, but I've compared some game some of his game from last year, some of his game from this year, and there's just something that's off. I feel like he's not like, one of the things is like he's not quite as fast as he was last year, if that makes sense. Like he seems like he's just kind of moving differently, I guess. So I don't know what that's about, obviously, but New Year's resolution would be for him to potentially fix that.
Yeah, you also both stole mine, but that's okay. My big one was Maddie Beniers. I think, and I like circled. I was like, shoot more. I think a big thing with Maddie Beniers that we've known, everyone's talked about for a really long time, is that he has, very high hockey IQ. He really knows how to play the game. I think he's playing a little too hard. I think he's like grinding a little too much, where the to the point that, and I think this to your point, Jade. I think he's overthinking a lot of what he's doing on the ice to the point where he does look a little bit unrecognizable to the player that we knew before, who's a little
Hmm.
bit more sure of where he was positioned on the ice, who was around him, things like that. And I saw this specifically with that Vancouver game this weekend, where I think it was him and Kako. They were like going to the net. Matty Beniers decides to pass, or no, Kako passes. Matty Beniers just like fully whiffs it. And I think it's he needs to just kind of find, if he's there and just take the shot. And I mean this goes for the entire team, but really, really Matty Beniers, who is kind of the future of the Kraken at this point. As at least that's what they're setting him up to be, is he has to be able to take that leadership and just really put like lead by example kind of thing. If we're going to be a team that shoots to score, then you need to shoot and start doing that now. So many Beniers, please shoot more. I would be so grateful. Um, I would love to see Chandler Stephenson just play a little bit better. Um, I there's a lot of graphs going around with the stats nerds, and they all look like this. And I wasn't very good in stats in college. I took one stats class because I was like, oh, this would probably be good for a journalist. But I know that when your graph looks like this, not very good. I would just love to see Chandler Stevenson play a little bit better. Um, and I think a big you know, New Year, New Me resolution for the Kraken. Um, I hope they find the power of friendship once again. I think we've talked about how weird the season is. I think the teams that, even if they're playing bad, at least they're having fun. I think a big part is that they look like they're having fun. The Kraken do not look like they're having fun on the ice half of the time. Especially when they're down, a few goals, they always look frustrated. If we could find once again that whimsy, um, then maybe things will righten themselves up.
That makes sense. I'm gonna rip into some players here and then talk about some team ones I want to do too, because I'm just tired of it all. I'd like Jamie Alexiak. I think this was related to, I think Silvia said this on the internet during the Vancouver game. And this might relate to when Vancouver comes to town on Thursday. I don't know, is Kiefer? Is his first name Kiefer Sherwood?
Hmm.
It's fascinating. What a name. Was
Exactly.
just, hmm? He was just kind of doing whatever he wanted and running into any Kraken player. And it was just like, wow, you're just letting the little annoying kid at the park go and just slap you and then run away. It was just disappointing. It's not different than what the Kraken have been, and not a team that really sticks up for each other. The point was made, if this guy is a big rig, how come he isn't big rigging himself into players when, your own teammates are getting whacked? Like that has been a criticism of Jamie Alexiak, is his size. He's a big guy. He doesn't really, you know, use that to his advantage. He doesn't make that known. That presence really isn't there for him. His game hasn't been there either this year. He's got a negative 3.7 offensive rating, which, I understand he's a defenseman, but I always thought he was viewed as someone who has more of an offensive game for a D man. Um, this year, mm, he's been relatively average to, average defensively for hockey stat cards, but it's just, I'd like to see Jamie Alexiak pick his game up. I don't. He's on a line. He's on the pairing. Sorry, with Brandon Montour, and Brandon Montour looks, like shiny gold. And there's Jamie Alexiak, and I'm just kind of underwhelmed by him, and I've kind of been underwhelmed by him during his time as a Kraken, outside of maybe the 22-23 season when everybody had the magic pixie dust and played well. Even Daniel Sprong. I'd like to see him pick his game up and look a little bit better. Um, I just and especially for a guy who's got this year and then next year in his contract, maybe he's a guy that I'd move if you really want to blow things up this year and retool this year, or the offseason comes and you need to shed some money because he's making money he probably shouldn't be making for the contribution that he's providing for you. Capo Caco, I'm not going to be negative to him. He's a new guy. He's here. Rangers fans are nasty and yucky. I would just like for him to. I think my New Year's resolution for him would be to, and this is not always like all on him, but to really, do his best to bond with these guys because you're moving on from a situation that wasn't so good into a new home team that says, "Hey, we do want you." It came at a price that not many of our friends liked. Um, but you just want him to be comfortable here. He got his most ice time ever, I think, in a game in that Vancouver win. He wanted more ice time. He's got it here. I'd like to see that continue. Let's see. I'd like to see Ellie Tolvanen use his shot more. I mean, he's been a guy who in Nashville was kind of criticized for his size and his physical ability, amongst other things that Nashville weirdly held against him. And one of the other things, at least when he was acquired by Seattle, everyone talked about his shot. I haven't really seen his shot all year, truthfully. Maybe I think he had a goal against Toronto when they were like already down. Um, and he might have gotten a shot through traffic. He's got a great shot. I mean, that's part of the reason I always like seeing him on the power play is because you put him on the flank and you've got a great shot there. Ideally you've got that out there. You've got Jared McCann's shot. Like that should be great, but I'd just like to see him use his shot more. I mean, he does have 8 goals in the season, which not bad. Yeah, I mean, you guys both touched on Matty Beniers playing better. That's definitely there. Jaden Schwartz. Jaden Schwartz, it's not necessarily a criticism, more of I want you to do it more. I feel like over the month of December, Jaden Schwartz has had a few just goals from like the goal line or just odd angles where he's able to put it in. That Vancouver game, just an incredible angle. I'd shoot more. I mean, if the rest of your team won't, like to Silvia's point about the game being even, both teams had 6 shots in the first, 9 in the second, from what I read on the NHL website. If your other teammates aren't going to do it, you take the shots, man. Like you are a guy who's won a cup. You are one of the most consistent Kraken formers or producers that I see. Someone's going to do it. And if it's going to be anybody, I'd like to see anybody do it to that point. But, you're a guy who's got 11 goals. You have shown you have that talent to score. You actually go to the net, even if you are kind of small. You're shorter than me. Um, Someone's going to do it. Yeah. So I'd echo that. I'd echo Chandler Stevenson. I'd like Jared McCann to find his more consistent form as well. Um, Jared McCann's been your best forward, whether that's points wise or whatever have you. He's leading the team in goals, but he did have this month of December that was kind of quiet for him, right? So I'd like to see him do a little bit better in that regard. Um, Team wise, yeah, I think like Silvia talked about, with the homestand and even with talking about the intermission stuff, you got to go to the net more. You cannot keep talking about it over and over again and not do it. Then it's just performative. Oh, yes, I am going to go and lift a bunch of weights and my arms are going to be really big and sexy. I can say that all I want. If I don't do it, it doesn't matter. It's just performative. Are you doing things to be performative on the Kraken Hockey Network? Or are you trying to win hockey games? Really, which one is it? The power play. I see the power play is so fascinating because again, the Kraken power play has not been good consistently, like ever. They've been around 4 years as a franchise, so ever. Um, my point here partially is because there are fan pages, and maybe it's just misogynist men who go, "Oh, it's that Jessica Campbell. She's blah 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 blah," or just fan pages who don't, who just kind of blame everything on coaches. one, as we've talked about on this show, right? You got to give these coaches grace considering it's their first year together as a unit, but also with this group, right? But also, it's like a hitting coach in baseball. You can tell these players all that they need to know about the power play and where the areas they need to attack are. If they don't go to the net, if they don't shoot in the right lanes that they have, to Sylvia's point that she also tweeted about during the game, follow at Los_Kraken. Like it doesn't matter. If I don't have it. Oh wait, no, I do. Aha, I have my P6. Let's go. Oh, they're both wrong-handed for me. This is awkward. If I'm in the right shooting lane and I just like I freeze up, it doesn't matter. Like you, Jessica Campbell can tell you, okay, all of these movements, Jaden Schwartz is going to go to the net. You're going to have the goalie screen. You have the shooting lane. If I'm Vince Dunn and I'm not sending the puck on net, it does not matter, right? You can tell them all of these things and you can prepare them as best you can. When they get on the ice, it is on them to do something about it. So, let me come back here. Sorry about that.
Gotta get you on the bench.
Yeah, we'll see. Oh, and I said Vince Dunn, I wasn't lying. Um, it's just I think the power play is more on a player's thing than anything. And like you see the great power plays in this league, they're typically with players who have been around forever around each other. They like practically live inside each other's walls at that point. Um, Kraken haven't had that. I mean, they've got a few guys who have been consistent on their power plays, like obviously Vince Dunn and Jared McCann have been there. Jaden Schwartz has been there. They put Matty out there, even though he has shown no offensive, improvement over his career so far. Um, I just think it's more of a players thing, personally. You now had two different coaching staffs on the power play, and they've sucked the whole time. But you've had largely the same amount of players, right? Right. So that, and then we've already talked about it. But my last resolution for the team, you've got to be more consistent. You've got we talked about it in our rants last week. Um, but playoffs are a long shot. I mean, they're still technically in play. It's a possibility, but outside of that, in terms of money in the business, you've potentially got an NBA team coming in here that will be playing in the same building. And if the Oakview group does put in a bid, will be owned by the same ownership. You'll be sharing resources. And they happen during the same season. You will lose fans. People have already kind of lost the whole, oh, we've got a new team. I want to go see it. Hockey is so fun. La 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 la. What is a power play? How blissful that was. It's gone. It's gone. People, season ticket holders are mad. Fans who are not season ticket holders are mad. We are mad. Some of us. Sylvia is always even keel. Put that on the record. Um, you have to be more consistent. You have to make the games interesting. You have to do the things that make these games entertaining. And that isn't always just shooting from the perimeter. It is going to the net. I mean, you've got big Capo Caco. Uh, I want him in front of the net. He's a big guy. People like that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Goals are fun too. Winning also generates money. So that would help. But it's just being consistent. I mean, fans go to games and they want to see they want to see something they know they can count on. If it's like I'm getting Jekyll and Hyde and it's more I don't know which one the bad one is. I'm sorry. If it's more negative than positive, are fans gonna want to come back? No. So that's my points. Yeah, lots of resolutions, a lot of anger. Um, have we paid enough attention to the World Juniors to talk about them? I can talk about them lightly. Um,
I can also
Czechia's
talk about them a little bit.
yeah. Czechia and Sweden are undefeated. The US and Canada both have been upset. Um, well, I mean, yeah, I'd say upset because Finland beat US today. Canada obviously lost to Latvia, and that caused quite an uproar, right? There was a Latvian kid who looked at the camera and said, "Girlfriend, I love you," which gotta love it, just girlfriend. Uh, um, and the Kraken have 8 prospects in the World Juniors. A few of them have performed really well. Carson Raycop finally got added to the Canada roster. I believe it was yesterday. It
He
may have
played
been,
today.
yeah. Um, So yeah, I know I'll kind of hand it to Jade because she's been handling this for Kraken and then just generally as well. So I'll hand you some World Juniors discussion.
Um, I've seen a lot of really good things said about all of the players. Berkeley Catton had his first assist today, which go him. It was on, I'm pretty sure it was on Oliver Bong's goal, which is huge for Jade Nation. Uh, and then Caden Price has one goal and one assist. Um, I feel like I'm gonna start butchering names. Miettinen has one
Oh
goal.
yeah, that's right.
Um, and then yeah, I'm gonna
You
butcher
looking
names
at
too.
Zeb?
That's one of them.
Yeah, I will try to find that out.
Okay. One goal, three assists.
Oh,
Saleh,
great.
Saleh, right?
Chale.
Okay. Three
Pretend
goals,
there's an
two assists.
SH.
Oh, you're right with the little, yep. Um, three goals, two assists, and then the one whose name starts with an F, not Zeb, the other one.
Oh,
That I've
uh,
never been able to, yeah.
I'm
There's some names that
forgetting.
I like feel really
Oh,
confident.
Fibbiger. Yeah,
Yep.
no, I
Some
know who
names
you're
I feel
talking
really
about.
confident just like reading and saying, not always. I don't like to butcher names. I do a lot of the YouTubing, like how to pronounce this person's name before I start talking about players, and I didn't
Yeah.
today. Anyways, he has five assists, so um, that's pretty much all that's going on so far. Um, I'm gonna do another recap for CSS Futures, so I guess look out for that if you're following World Juniors at all.
It has been at least just overall to see the eight names.
Hmm.
I know I think there's another team that has eight as well, but to have eight prospects is exciting. I know we might have touched on the prospect pool last episode, but to have that talent, to have Berkeley Catton playing a top six role, Carson Rakoff is there. Um, I think it's Finland as well. I could be wrong. You can correct me, but Kim Saarinen, one of the goaltender prospects, is there.
Hmm.
Caden Price is a guy that to me kind of got lost in like the WHL draft picks they've made. Like Lucas Dragasevich was a Tri-City American. Now he's a Prince Albert Raider. Both of those guys kind of get lost because they do have guys like Carson Rakoff in the WHL. Like they especially this last draft, they drafted all those guys in the WHL. Yeah, Tyson Yugnauth is in Portland, Dragasevich is in Prince Albert, Caden Price is in Kelowna, Caden Hamill is in Everett. They're loving their WHL guys lately, and especially those D men. But then like their forwards in Catton and Miettinen especially this year with Everett, there's a big center has been really good. They've got Ollie Josephson and Red Deer and Clark Caswell and Swift Current. Um, I wrote those down so I could remember them, so I could look them up. It's exciting to me, and when Jade put this together and I kind of sprinkled some stuff in there. I put in Sawyer Minio for the Thunderbirds as well, just to kind of
Hmm.
tie in the Seattle area. And Sawyer played his first game, I think, today as well.
I think
Um,
so, yeah.
it's just exciting for the prospect pool because I've seen, some fans, I think, for this last draft who are like, oh, well, obviously it's a smaller pool than the other teams, considering they've only been around for 4 years. But I think they've drafted well. I mean, they need to see results, obviously. You want Matty Beniers to play better offensively. Riker Evans is producing well as the first defenseman you ever took. I think when he got drafted, he was with Regina. Um, it doesn't matter. Shane Wright, I mean, we've liked Shane's game this year. So I think it's important to look at these things, just for the health of the organization. Like Silvia mentioned earlier, you talked about building this thing through 5 years. Part of that is drafting, and I think they've largely done that well. I think they'll, have some really good talent coming through the pipeline the next few years. But how the organization views, the window to compete is a different thing. It might not match up. You might see some of these guys traded. That's just how professional sports works. Obviously, the Mariners are in a position where they have a bunch of talented prospects. They don't have anybody to trade with because no one wants prospects that they can trade with. Yeah,
World
Czechia is
Juniors are
undefeated.
also, I was
Oh,
going to say
sorry.
World Juniors are also so important because there's so many players that are um in the next draft or two. Like this year, there's
Mm.
quite a few that are 2026 draft eligible. There's a lot of 2025 draft eligible. And so it gives you a chance to, like, if you're following the World Juniors and you're interested in the future of your team, it gives you a chance to really kind of see these people's games that you're not normally seeing because, I'm not always turning on a WHL or an OHL or a CHL or anything game. If one is on just to watch somebody that might be playing in a few years for my team. So I think World Juniors is important. And then um from a kind of like a again looking to the future point of view, I used last year's World Juniors a lot when I was talking about the draft for 2024. So it all kind of ties together and it's all fun to follow along with and I think really important for the future of any team that you even remotely care about. So
Yeah, I mean, and to keep too with that future part, like with some of these prospects, like Shale, he's a guy last year, when he was with Kitchener, when he got traded to Kitchener after being with the Barre Colts, um, like it seemed like he struggled with confidence. I was also told that, he kind of felt like maybe he was missing home a little bit. And, that can be tough when you're kind of starting to be in the States or, away from family. I understand that. Like it makes perfect sense. Um, so I understand that, it can be tough for him to, just emotionally and mentally, to deal with that part of being a pro, and growing up. Because again, these are guys that are 18, whatever. I don't know. They're all young, you know.
they can be as young as 15 to be
Yeah.
in the World Juniors. So,
Oh, yeah. Because some of the Kraken kids are like 16, 17 that are in
mhm.
this as well, who made this as underagers, right? So I just think, not only for them to perform, but just to even like in Shali's case to get confidence. Like Czechia has been rolling, he's scored, and been a part of that. He's one of the leaders of that team after kind of being there and representing his country a few times. With some of them like Fibiger, like you are there as a depth piece, yes, but it is still important one to represent your country. And who knows what you'll pick up for Rakoff. You're probably looking to be a competitor immediately and contribute. No, sorry, I'm thinking of Catton. For Catton, you're looking to contribute it. For Rakoff, you're a guy who maybe, hey, you want to prove yourself more if you do get in the game like you did today. So I don't know. It's a great opportunity. It is a wonderful opportunity not only to represent your country. You see how passionate these games are, and how heated they can be in some situations as well, whether it is on the ice or the results of them. I'm looking at Canada. Um, and yeah, just to perform, Shale will be in this. And then you've got some of the other guys like Miettinen scored today for Finland. He's had a great couple of years if you include this like half season with Everett. And then the year before, it can be an opportunity for you to, if you're soaring, to keep soaring. If you're sucking, to kind of get yourself back on track. So no, I think it's great to see, and should be a lot of fun. And because before the Kako trade, this was the only international representation the Kraken were going to have. But now they can send a Capo to the Four Nations, so I'll have to make a Four Nations graphic before that comes around. Um, yeah, guys, we've talked about the homestand ahead. Well, Sylvia, do you have anything on World Juniors? Any thoughts? Any opinions? Make fun of Canada? Thoughts?
No, I haven't, unfortunately, haven't been able to watch it. And I do pay a lot of attention to the WHL just because I'm at Tri-City Americans games literally all of the time. So like watching these players, I think for me the biggest thing is watching these players who I've seen come through the Toyota Center just like get this, international spotlight to like show what they're able to do, I think is super fun. I also think it goes back to, what you were saying and what we said before, like there is talent in the Kraken prospect pool. And like that's something to be excited about, especially because a lot of the conversation that I've seen on The Athletic, on Reddit, social media, whatever, is, that we are seeing a lot of um, youth players who can no longer truly play the game, is my understanding. Right, like, they're missing whatever, like, they can do all the fun tricks, they can do Instagram hockey, but they don't have that on ice awareness. And I think something like World Juniors really kind of shuts that up, because we do have players that are, creating, they're smart, they're intelligent, they are two-way defensemen, and I think being able to have that really shoved in your face, if you are willing to pay attention to the youth rather than just, get angry that your 37-year-old isn't producing anymore, then maybe you, again, going back to that optimism, you have a little bit more optimism for what your team can bring, especially your brand new team like the Kraken can bring to the city. So I'm very excited. Like, yeah, like you said, they'll probably, a lot of them will get traded. But that just means that we have the power, we have power in trades. If our prospect pool is this, talented, then we can trade for even more talent. And that's exciting as well.
Yeah, no, that's part of what's nice about having a deeper prospect pool is, hey, yeah, you're going to develop from within, like so many superstars have been. The teams don't let superstars hit free agency that often. Um, and if you need to add a Carson Rakoff to a deal to get somebody, if for some reason Kyle Connor doesn't want to stay in Winnipeg, which I wouldn't want to stay in Winnipeg, you've got that prospect pool. If they want to trade you for an Oliver Bjorkstrand, but they want you need something to push them over the edge, you've got prospects. Yeah, I don't know. It has been kind of fun to talk about, especially two-way defensemen, and deep men actually being able to play defense. I know one of the things that Caden Price, I think it was Caden Price, talked about making the Canada roster in the first place was his defense, and he showed out well enough to make it. So there we go. All right, yeah, that'll do it. By the time we see you next week, we will be in 2025, the big 2025. Who knows what version of the Kraken we'll get throughout the rest of the NHL season, but hopefully it's better than how they closed out the 2024 year outside of the Vancouver win. Until we see you next time, take care of yourselves, be well, have some whimsy, for Silvia.
And friendship.
And so, use the power of friendship, because if you don't have that, I don't know what you're doing. You might be mentally ill, but you can still have the power of friendship. And do whatever you can to make today a great day.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey. Where are you going to watch all those Kraken away games?
Kraken away games, making a push. I was thinking of coming here just because Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, only if that's okay with you.
I mean, I love that idea. Hope to see you here.
Hello there, everybody. Charles Hamaker here with Circling Seattle Sports. I'm joined by Jen Barnes of Rough and Tumble that we happen to be at right now.
Yeah.
Jen, why don't you talk to me a little bit about what we're announcing today, which is our partnership.
I'm so excited about this. First of all, I just want to say thank you. I think all of us here at Rough and Tumble are big fans of what you and your team at Circling Seattle Sports does. And so, I know you know this, but when you came to me with this idea, it just seemed pretty natural. And it's not just me. I think a lot of people in the sports community in Seattle also really respect you and your team. So it's exciting to kind of see these two things melding together, and we're really excited to start implementing some of the things and then hopefully seeing you guys a little bit more often.
Yeah, and so with what Jen says about seeing us more often, we've got a few things in the works, but you'll see watch parties here. We'd like to do a few different of our community drives, which you'll hear about here in a little bit from now. We've got to make our announcements one at a time. I can't drop everything.
Not everything
right.
all at once.
But this has been a home for a lot of our team, whether it's myself, our friend, our photographer Liz is behind the camera. Liz is here often, so our team has kind of adopted this place kind of like our own since I saw you at our soft launch. So, it's been great to have that support. And in a lot of ways, And part of the reason I wanted to do this was the rough and tumble embodies a lot of what Circling Seattle Sports wants to do. Obviously with women's sports, with the storm and the rain, but just being, having the game on, every game on.
Yep.
How much of that, did you see a line kind of even before this idea was mentioned when I first met you?
I think it's always felt like that. I mean, you and your team were here on opening night, and you just feel like you're part of the space, so it felt like really natural. And the fact that you actually cover all of the sports really makes your group stand out. So you are always covering all the rain games, all the storm games. You'd have women's softball, you'd have women's basketball, you'd have women's hockey. We love it. So all of those things, and obviously passionate M's fans, passionate Hawks fans, and passionate Kraken and Sounders fans. So really, from our perspective, those two things meshed really well.
So, you heard it from Jen herself, but this will be our home for all of these events, whether it's you can't make it to these games at home, we're always going to direct you to Rough and Tumble, and obviously the games on the road as well. All of these, we're talking about the rain, they've got their schedule out finally, but this will be our home for that.
Great.
The storm games on the road, this is our home.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes.
I love it.
And when I mentioned it to Jen when I first had this idea come up, I had this idea come up wearing a pink wig.
Yes, you did.
Ahead of Megan Rapinoe's final regular season home game for the Reign this past year.
Yeah.
I told her it's because I wanted this to feel genuine.
Yep.
I wanted a connection to feel genuine, and it does. So that's what this is. Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, and I'm so excited to finally announce this partnership.
I can't wait.